Number 8. I'm 14. I live with my parents in a 2-story house. It was around 3 a.m. when I woke up to something falling in my bathroom. I didn't move as I was scared, you could say. Noting happened for a few seconds, but I heard my bathroom door slowly open. I got confused at that point, but then I heard slow moving steps of some sorts on my carpet. I thought it was my cat at that point. After the steps got to the foot of my bed, they stopped. And then it started making noises. It sounded like a cat grooming itself, but I soon sounded like a person licking their own skin. Suddenly it stopped. Then I felt something go onto my bed. It felt like a cat on the bed, but I heard no jumping noise. I could feel it putting pressure onto my bed. I'm not sure how to explain it, but there was something on my bed. Then it stopped moving. I sat in my bed for what felt like an hour, but then I moved and turned on my lamp. Nothing was there. I ran out of my room and I got my mom. When we went back into the room, nothing was there. Number 7. So this happened to me when I was around 13 or 14. My family had decided to visit Shimla, India. Being the religious people that my parents are, they had decided to visit all the major nearby temples, whether in Shimla or in adjoining districts. So this incident occurred to me while we were on the way to visit this one particular temple, which is kind of famous among the people living in Shimla. But I don't recall its name as I had no interest in temple visits and was being forced by my parents to tag along with them. The only thing I remember is that the temple was on the peak of a tall mountain, and the path to it was very steep and narrow. So we were in the car along with a driver. My mother and I were sitting in the back while my father was in the front with the driver. In order to pass the time, I was looking out of the window. Now I think this would be a bit hard to imagine, but I will try my best to describe it. On the side that I was sitting on, you could see the mountain and the parallel road, which is above the road we were on, and it will take you further up on the mountain, while on my mother's side was the mountain ditch, our cliff. But these are not two separate roads, but just one single narrow road, which is winding upwards. As I was gazing on the road up above us, which we will be on after taking the next turn, I see an old uncle, and he is so old that he is bent at the waist and walking with a stick very slowly. I watch him for a few seconds, but soon some trees block my view as the turn which will take us to this particular road arrives. As soon as we turn and I have a clear view of the entire road, I do not see him anywhere. He has completely vanished, and there is this single road to walk on, no other path. On one side, it's the steep mountain with no way of climbing it, and on another, there is the cliff from which falling off will guarantee death. There was no other car or any other person apart from us on that road. I looked for him in the tress or at the side of the road, everywhere in that small space, but he had completely vanished. This incident still gives me the chills, and I am not able to forget the image of that old, bent-over grandpa. Number 6. When I was 7, me and my family went to a camping event far away from our town, and a lot of my parents' friends took their children to the camping spot as well. When we all got there, everyone had to park the cars far away from the camping spot. It was a long walk from the cars and the campsite. But when we all got there, we set up tents and started a fire. We all socialized and ate food over the campfire. However, when it got really late, some people wanted to sleep in their cars instead of sleeping in the tents, which was annoying for the parents because it would mean they would have to walk for about 30 minutes to the cars and 30 minutes back to the camp. Everyone else stayed in the tents, but before we all got to sleep, someone suggested we all went into the woods nearby, except I didn't want to go with everyone else. But if I didn't, I would have had to have spent an hour by myself at the camp in the pitch dark. And because of how young I was, I had a big imagination about what might be in the woods surrounding me. So I decided to go with everyone else, but mainly stayed close to my sister, who was much older than me. After a few minutes of walking, my leg caught onto something hidden under some dirt. Me and my sister decided to dig it up, and what we found was strange. It was a large, log-like object that was wrapped in bandage with red liquid oozing from it. We unwrapped it and saw a red jelly-like substance with sticks and a razor. Inside it, we both looked around the area and saw unpackaged baby products that were covered in a brown-green like stain. We started going in deeper and saw women's products scattered everywhere. They had red stains on them, but they weirdly looked like they had just been used by someone. Me and my sister then turned behind a tree and saw a dirty old sleeping bag underneath some leaves next to a single log of wood, and posters and flyers ripped and torn everywhere. And so me and my sister decided to go back. But when we looked around us, only to come to the horrifying realization that we had split off from everyone else and were alone in the deep woods and not knowing which way to go back. We tried retracing our steps to no success and only ended up deeper into the woods. But when we looked behind one tree, our hearts almost stopped. We saw a terrifying man, his teeth yellow and rotting, his eyes bloodshot. He was wearing a stained green t-shirt with a jacket that had holes and even more stains than the shirt. He wore a beanie and had a big dirty beard with what looked like food in it. The man just stood staring at us and smiling his eyes, looking at us up and down. I looked down and saw what looked like a large black hunting knife, and as I kept looking at it, I realized it was exactly that the blade was almost broken, and look, it had been used without being cleaned. Me and my sister held each other's as the man stared at us as our eyes filled up with tears. We wanted to run, but we were so petrified we just couldn't. It was as if the air was being taken from our lungs. For after what felt like years, we both ran through the forest quicker than we ever have before. The tears dropping from our face and our screams filling the silent forest. I looked behind us and the man was still staring and smiling at us with his horrific grin. Before finally we ended up back at the camp with everyone else. We told our dad, and he decided to walk us over to the car and slept in with us. The next day, we all went back to the camp, and me and my sister were horrified. The tent we were meant to sleep in had been ripped and torn, and inside we found a bloody yellow tooth that looked like it had just been torn out. We all then left, and me and my sister took a sigh of relief when finally leaving the campsite. Number 5. Me and my friend were at Scottsburg, Oregon, and we were camping in my grandpa's property, and we were messing around. He threw his backpack with a book inside it, hit my head, and I got a concussion. And we decided to stay up all night, so I did have worse symptoms. So we were up at 3 a.m. talking, and we felt like we were being watched, and you can see inside the tent. So I have the human lidar on my phone for my YouTube channel for modeling, and I went outside and used it. And looking in the shadow, there was a person standing there. But when I looked without the phone, nothing was there. We used flash nothing. So later we go back in and look at the recording, and we watch the practice to show it work to my friend. And then we saw the video where the figure was, and it was there. I deleted the app and went inside with my friend. Number 4. When I was 5, 6-ish, we had one of those blue inflatable pools, and I was having a good time playing for an hour. Mind you not, I'm kid. I don't know, being watched. Feels like I have this weird feeling. And I looked behind towards the fence, and I freaked out seeing this blurry orange thing sprint towards the forest. There were claw marks everywhere. The pool had slash marks. It popped my parents' dawn. I know what to do because they saw it too. I have flashbacks every time I get in a pool of this, whatever it was. Number 3. Me and a couple of our friends were out at one of their houses staying late at night, like the average group of teenage boys would. We got bored of playing games and decided to wonder which was our first mistake. We walked along the abandoned, broken down paths behind the fence of my friend's house. We made it to the end of the path when it was blocked up by a large fence that said, "Do not trespass." It did not say that because the fence at my friend's had a gate. But on our way back, I felt the urge to be on high alert and protect my friends that aren't as strong or capable. So, I stayed near them, not lingering off as I did the way up the path. We made it safely back, but I couldn't help to feel like something was watching us through one of the abandoned houses or bushes. When we got back, I told them I didn't feel safe even with the fence there. They said I was just being paranoid. We stayed on the trampoline messing with the cars passing by and people walking until we heard something around 100 meters along the path. A scream not like something I have ever heard before. It was like the bellowing of an elk and a hissing of an alligator. And we got down on the trampoline, laying down, whispering to each other. What was that? I want to go inside. No, we can't if we move. Whatever is there will hear us. After this banter, we decided to jump after about 15 minutes, me being the taller one I saw on the path first. I couldn't tell what it was. It was a pale figure on all fours that locked eye contact with me. I quickly laid back down, told the others. Still thinking I was paranoid, they told me to jump while they did to give them a boost. They both saw it, and from their description, it got closer every single time we saw it. We finally got the courage to look and saw nothing. We took that chance to run to the door and go inside. The next morning, one friend went home and me and the friend that we're staying the night at went out on the path and saw scratches on the path that weren't there the last night that had our initials. I came over there a week later and we were walking until I saw a pale figure at least 7 feet tall in one of the abandoned house's windows. We ran as fast as we could, and to this day we could never explain what happened. Number 2. We had newly moved houses. I've heard many of my friends complain about how they don't get a good aura from their house, but the one we bought really had a calm aura, no negative vibes to it. It's an old building, but the house felt comfortable since the very day we moved. Now, after moving in, it had just been a week, and not everything had been properly set up, so I was sleeping in the same bedroom as my parents. There are 2 bedside tables, and we had placed a water bottle on both the side table. Also, this one's a master bedroom, so even the washroom is inside the bedroom. Now, at around 2-3 a.m., I woke up parched. I don't exactly know what went through my mind. I got up and walked up to our kitchen to get water. I think I wasn't conscious as my body just moved on its own and walked me up to the kitchen. But I got my consciousness back while I was facing my water purifier while I was drinking water. Now, mind you, we have a small shrine in our kitchen, which was right behind me at that time, and the water purifier is besides a window. Now, while drinking water, I felt a chill run down my spine, and I swear to God, I felt the temperature drop. My hair near my ear moved in the breeze. The window was closed, and I heard a clear whisper right in my ear from behind me, calling me by my nickname name. I felt someone standing behind me. I just turned and absolutely nothing but the shrine lights on. It's supposed to be a holy place, yet I felt creeped out. I rushed back to the bedroom beside my parents and tightly held my mother's arm to sleep. The next morning I told my parents about it and they laughed it off, but also asked me why did I leave the room in the first place, since both the water and the washroom were inside the room itself. Things got crazy this day's evening. My mother screams out my name and I rush to the kitchen. She gives me a worried look and points out to the window, besides the water purifier. Flashback. Before the night I experienced it, I was in the kitchen helping out my mother, and the window glass was fogged up BCZ of the heat of the gas stove, so I had written my nickname on that fogged up glass, which was still there, oddly even a day after, and my mom pointing it out to me, saying, "Didn't you say you heard someone whisper your nickname?" Ever since childhood, I've heard a superstition within my family. I tried looking it up on Google, but I can't find any such cultural references, though my grandma and my mom has always warned me to never trace lines in sand or on glass or keep it unrubbed. They never used to let us write our name on sand or draw something. Apparently they kept saying, if you draw a line or write her name and leave it, their spirits might follow you back home or may get attached to you. I've never after that night experienced anything as such in my house, thankfully. But God, the nickname part and the coincidence of me having drawn that on the glass really scares me and makes it believable. Number 1. So one day I walked through the forest on my own. This happened a few days ago. I wanted to take a walk and climb my favorite hill. So I walked past some horses and the lake that you can't see anymore because there are plants in front of it. So I walked past the lake and I looked up into the woods where there's a really tall hill. On top of that hill, the woods end and there's a field. I saw a man staring at me from up there. He was wearing a face mask and a weird coat. My first instinct was to run, so I ran. I'm 13 BTW and I have long legs, so I ran pretty fast. I took a shortcut out of the forest and ran into my room. I still wonder about what would have happened if I went deeper into the woods sometimes.